Hello 8th graders, for your Chapter 5 test, I have made 6 videos, one for each learning target. They're going to be quick. Hopefully they will be informative. The first learning target is describing slope. Slopes come in all different ways. You can see that slopes can be positive, negative, zero, or undefined. The way that we know what the slope is we look at what happens to the line when it moves from left to right. So as it travels this direction, what's going on? If it's going up, we call it positive. If it's going down, we call it negative. If it doesn't do anything, that means there's no slope. It's a slope of 0. And if it's undefined, that means it's going straight up and down. In other words, in order to find that slope, you're going to end up dividing by 0, and you can't do that. Dividing by 0 is kind of like illegal in math. So it will say error if you tried to do that on your calculator. That means it's undefined. Notice this one. If I describe the slope, I would say this slope is positive. On the test, you're going to be asked to describe a slope, whether it be positive or negative, or you are going to be asked to draw an example of a positive slope, a negative slope, a 0 slope, or an undefined slope. What is the slope? If I want to know what is the slope, that's not a description. That's the actual number version of the slope. So we're going to look at the slope as a rise over a run. Sometimes that simplifies to be just one number. Sometimes it stays a fraction. So let's count our rise and our run. Our rise is the distance that we're going to go up or down. Notice this is a positive slope, so in the end, my number should be a positive number. So on the top, I'm going to put my rise. That's going up by 2. Now, technically, I'm counting the boxes, but if we were looking here, it's counting 2, 4. So I'm actually going up by 4. I'll go ahead and write that. And then to get to this point, I'm going over one box, which, as we noticed, it's also counting by 2s. So that's 2. In class, we talked about how if they're counting by the same thing, it actually doesn't matter because it will simplify to be the same slope. So notice if we simplify 4 over 2, that just simplifies to a slope of 2. Also, when we're looking at the slope, because when I got to this point in the middle, I don't just go one spot. I go from one point where 2 lines cross to another point where 2 lines cross. Here's another point where 2 lines cross, and here's another one. Notice how this is right in the middle of this box. We don't want to cut a box up. It's too hard to determine if it's what the fraction or decimal piece would be, so we tried to work with just whole numbers. So go until you get to the next whole number. Let's do another example. So this slope is negative, right? So that's my description of the slope. But if I want to know what is the actual slope, I'm going to do again. I'm going to find where 2 lines cross. Here's one where 2 lines cross. And then as I go, these spots do not go exactly where 2 lines cross until here. So I'm going to count my rise over my run. My rise is the distance up or down, and my run is how far I go this direction to the right. Okay? So my rise is 1, 2, 3, and my run is 1, 2. Now, technically, my rise went down. And when a rise goes down, we're going to call it negative. But you can also just count, and then when you see that the line is going down or a line has a negative slope, you can just add a negative sign to the front. All right, so my slope is -3/2, and I cannot simplify that. It's in simplest form. Lastly, if I know a point on the line, for example, it says this line contains the point -2, 3, and you can see that point's already graphed. It has a slope of -1, -1/3. Name another point on the line. All I'm going to do is I'm going to find another one by following this slope. So remember, slope is rise over run. And if the rise is -1 and the run is 3, that means I'm going to go down 1 over 3. So I'm going to start at the point that I see. I'm going to go down 1 over 3. 1, 2, 3. There's another point that would be on my line. Let's do it again. Down 1 over 3. There's another point. Down 1 over 3. There's another point. We can connect those with a line. Oh, my line is terrible. Okay. If I wanted to go backwards, I could do the opposite of what I see. So instead of going down 1, I could go up 1 and backwards 3. See how that would still land on that line if I did it perfectly? Up 1 over 3. My line was just really bad. There we go. That's better. All right, that's the end of your first learning target. Stay tuned for your second one.